And Michael, I believe that we are live. Good morning.
Good morning. Of course, it's less of a good morning as we review what America believes. Not just you, Vinnie, not, but what America relies on as a core belief. What do they really believe? And how did they come by these beliefs? And where in the world did they get these notions that leave one third of the country still after all this time? Living in a world that was created entirely with a flick of a wrist by Donald Trump 4 or 5 years ago, and they willingly live in it. I know you've called it a cult. Well, you're right, and that's why they don't learn from their mistakes. That's why they don't question their leader, and
Yeah,
that's why even
because the
after all this
belief
time,
system is basically whatever the leader says, right?
that's really it. It's easy because eventually the leader always says we're going to drink Kool-Aid today. It's on the menu.
Yeah, there's always, no matter how you slice it, dice it, but wait, there's more. Ron Popeil sells it to you. There's always that eventual day where the Kool-Aid is poured into the vats and handed out to the people in paper cups.
And remember, Vinny, the same people who are in love with Donald Trump bought the Popeil's pocket fisherman and actually went out there to get Big Bill in the straits between the Big Island and Honolulu.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, these again, and we've said this a million times on this show that it's there are people who have figured out that this country is at the lowest education ebb that we have ever seen since probably it became a requirement to send your kid to school.
So
And
since the Civil War,
yeah, and we're paying more money for education in this country than we ever have before. It costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars to send your kid to school. It costs, the schools are raking in more money than they've ever made. Football coaches, in one of the most ridiculous things in our society, are making millions of dollars, and and yet they're turning out stupider kids. If they were General Motors and they were turning out cars like that, we wouldn't buy a car from them.
or we would buy a car and you can get the chip later. How would that be for a deal? Will you buy a car now? Can you buy it and drive it today, and we'll get those chips to you later so
Right.
that your navigation thing works?
We'll send you the chip. We'll send you the upload, the download, or whatever you call it for the system later. Yeah, I mean, take it now. I'm sure some manufacturer is going to start doing that with tires at some point. Here, listen,
And how does that work? Explain that to me so that
take
even
it,
I can understand it.
take it, and put it in your driveway, and as soon as we have four tires, we'll send them over.
Oh, tires to be added later. I see. Okay.
But it'll
Well,
cost you $125 to put the tires on.
on second thought, I think our prayer cloth is going to do quite well.
Yeah, no, our
I
prayer
really think
cloth is
so.
gonna. I mean, that thing is gonna. There's people gonna grab that thing and feel like they're super people, like a race of superhumans.
And that must be who we think we are. God has anointed us in a special way so that what we believe, the notions that come into our mind are more important than facts, science, or reality. And we can diffuse the pressure of having to believe the truth by believing our own little story that comes to us. Well, look at this. It's so nice. We have a channel right on the television that delivers it every night. If you don't know what to dream, if you don't know what to believe, if you're uncertain as to what your beliefs should take you, what road you can go down where you too can live in an alternate universe, just watch Fox at night and they'll give you step by step instructions on a daily basis. If you forget on a Thursday, tune in on a Friday and you get renewed. You're right back where you were. You got a new belief, something
Well,
new to believe, not to know, Vinny. You understand? I'm not interested in what we can know. I'm really only interested in what we're able to believe.
yeah, I mean that's. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The people that look at, and I mean, we'll get into Tucker Spolpaki there in a minute. And his his
You know,
his deal.
that's all we
Don't
have to thank him for.
Don't forget, yes, we do. I mean, we are fans of Tucker Carlson because without him, there'd be no Slovakia, which is,
And no
which is
Slovakians.
our favorite country. And the, the concept that you look at different ideas and different thoughts on the same subject, and that you learn which one is the right one, which one of these thoughts is most based in fact. That concept seems to have gone from from many Americans, not all Americans, but many Americans,
35% maybe.
library of thoughts in their head. I mean, you get people who will look at a Tucker Carlson or a Sean Hannity or whoever, and they will say that what they are saying is absolute doctrine. I already have a friend that has sent me an email that says, do you see, you were wrong about the 6th, January 6th all along, that it was a peaceful protest, and that those people were just sent there by the leftist Democrats to rile things up and make sure that Trump didn't get into office.
And where did he get that information, I wonder?
Well, he didn't send it to me before Tucker got the tapes.
Well, Tucker had proof last night on television. He showed everyone that there was no riot, no insurrection, no tough guys, no harm done, no cops beaten, no people died, nobody took a poo in the Hall of Statues and rubbed it on the wall. None of that happened.
You know, it's personally insulting to me as an American that, number one, anybody would believe that, and number two, that he would be allowed by a corporation, an operator that holds a federal license, many federal licenses, that he would be allowed to spew that kind of stuff.
It happens every day on licensed radio stations all across the country who, on a threadbare budget, barely making a profit with a small margin, are broadcasting Republican right-wing hardcore lies every day on their radio station, knowingly doing it for a profit, knowingly taking part in a great hoax, knowingly misinforming the people that they are licensed to operate in the interest of. And it's not one of those, but perhaps 400 of them across the nation, each broadcasting in that fashion, for profit, telling lies that they know are just truth. The just truth is the way to profit in AM radio in America.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, listen, Mikey, you and I both know that if we, and I had this conversation, I had lunch with an old friend of mine yesterday, and we sat in the park all day. It was beautiful. It was 50 plus degrees out. We sat in the park out in Golden Gardens, and we had lunch, and we talked about radio and everything that's going on. And, you know, I said that if you and I wanted to spew that fascist bullcrap that is pumped out by certain radio stations in town,
we'd be stars.
We'd be heroes to people. We'd be on the air. We'd be spewing it. We would be going to conventions and getting advertisers up the kazoo and all of that stuff.
And knowingly taking part in a fraud.
But we would be taking part in something that I, no matter how much money you threw at me, could not consciously do. I don't lie that good. I'm not good. I'm not a good enough liar to do that.
And Tucker Carlson happens to be an excellent liar, apparently. We're just finding out that he despises Donald Trump, and on many shows was able to do his show without mentioning him, which is like, we got through the show without mentioning Trump. This is the breakthrough. We're the Trump station. We're the Trump headquarters. We're Trump campaign solutions. We're Trump Lie Central. If he doesn't have a lie, we'll come up with one for him, and we'll tell it during the day till he gets the hang of it, and then he can start telling it.
Well, Mikey, it really does come down to the idea that you have to be responsible for what you take in. You have to be responsible. If you allow yourself to watch a Tucker Carlson and believe what he says without checking it, just willy-nilly believing what he says because he's on TV, then you probably also believe that Milwaukee looked like it did in Happy Days, that Mork really did come from another planet, that Buffy and Jody and Sissy from Family Affair were great kids,
No,
that Uncle Bill
were,
never
they were,
snuck in to take a peek.
they were Spoltakian orphans.
Yeah, that you believe. That means you believe just everything you see on TV, and you don't have the brains or the incentive to read about it, to check it out.
And this has been reinforced in America, where people operate on faith. They don't have the truth on their side. They don't have an education on their side. They don't have the facts on their side, but they go with what they know. And what they know is the Lord's going to take care of them and all things will be provided. So let's go with this. Get my prayer blanket and proceed blindly into another mess.
Well, when you do that and it just affects you, hey, knock yourself out. That's your right as an American citizen.
To
If
be
you
an
want to
idiot.
be stupid all your life, God
You'll have
will.
lots of company.
You'll have lots of company. But when it affects me, when it affects my family, when it affects people I like, people I love, then you're crossing the line. If you want
Well,
to
what if
stay
it
on,
affects the rule of law or a decision of the courts
right,
or the decision of the College of Cardinals,
that
what about
that kid
the
that
Electoral College?
yeah. Yeah, thank God we're not the College of Cardinals is not or the College of Coaches for that matter.
Habemus papum. Habemus papum.
That's when you get the Kyle Rittenhouses of the world that look at TV and they see a Tucker Carlson or a Sean Hannity or whoever, and pick up a gun and say, I'm going to go out and do something about this. I'm going to go out.
Kyle still has his gun and he did not use all his ammo, so he's available for parties.
Yeah, he can come over your house and be more than happy to shoot up people.
Bar mitzvah? Don't invite him for the bar mitzvah.
No, he seems to get to. I mean, if I killed somebody in that type of situation, I would be doing my best to hide. I wouldn't want to be. I would be torn up inside, embarrassed. Beyond. I mean, I wouldn't be looking to do television appearances and have an agent trying to get me booked on conservative talk shows.
How would you like to be the cop that waved him on? Okay, Kyle, we see you. Yeah, go home.
I'm
I
sorry.
just killed a couple people. We got it, Kyle. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We'll take care of this. Well, again, there are plenty of cops that do a great job, and I know if you get in trouble, you call a cop and all of that kind of stuff. But as we're seeing from from the reports coming out of Louisville this morning, that the police department there would respond in a different way to people with disabilities, to people of color, to people that weren't exactly white and probably blonde. I mean, does it sound somewhat familiar if you studied German history in the 30s? And it all happens because a Ron Johnson,
oh God, don't get me started.
a Senator Ron Johnson exists because people are stupid.
Can you imagine admiring that guy and see him on TV and say, I voted for that idiot. He's my kind of idiot.
I saw, I'm no big fan of Chuck Todd from Meet the Press. But I'll tell you, Chuck took him apart this weekend on Meet the Press. And you know that you're taking somebody apart when the only thing that they can do is talk over you.
Humma, humma, humma.
Yeah, to try to not let people hear what you're saying. This guy is, I mean, the same state that gave us McCarthy is, and Paul Ryan is now giving us this Ron Johnson cat.
And don't forget Aaron Rodgers.
And this guy is despicable. I don't care if you're conservative or Republican conservative or liberal Democrat or what you are, to look at this guy and to say to yourself that this guy is right, has good intentions in heart, when his pure motives are so plain. He's got nothing on Hunter Biden. They've got nothing. And they'll spend 15 minutes
Just talking about it.
just talking about potential crimes. I pray that somebody will go into this guy's past and find some things that are a bit unsavory, because he looks like somebody.
We're going to have to rely on the kindness and the inventiveness of Holsteins, because that's the only thing that works in Wisconsin apparently these days. So much of the state is dysfunctional that look who they're sending to Washington. We're going to have to rely on the intelligent life form of the Holstein cow to come to grips with reality in Wisconsin, to take control in the city square of reality and safety.
I thought Wisconsin was a good state. I thought it was a state that kind of sat somewhere in the middle. They weren't always conservative. They weren't always liberal. There was we'll look at the issues and we'll and we'll work from there.
Now we're looking at a state that's not always rational, not always stable. Can we please get it together, Wisconsin? Can we come knock, Wisconsin? Are you going to go to work today? Are you all right in there?
Yeah,
No, we're Wisconsin.
I don't know how you can't figure out how to defeat this guy, and whether you're running the wrong candidates against him or whatever you're doing. This guy is no good. He's a liar. He is he's just, I mean, he makes my blood crawl.
He's
he looks
slightly
like
psychotic.
He would have been in Hitler's SS. I mean, he looks, out of all there's 3 people in Congress that I know right now that I just think about and say these guys could have been standing with the brown shirts on.
Jim Jordan.
Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, and Johnson. You just look at them, and you just, you know that they're not kind to animals.
The guy standing behind Hitler looking severe.
Who was that, Yodel? I think Yodel was the guy that was always had the,
Well, he was a military man.
Yeah, well, I think they all were at some point, right?
Well, they wore uniforms, even if they weren't in the military.
Right,
in fact,
right.
Hermann Goering had custom uniforms made. Nobody else in the Luftwaffe wore baby blue uniforms with gold braid.
I
What are
know
you
when you see the color pictures, like World War II in color, and you see some of the stuff that these guys were wearing. I mean, they were pissing away a lot of money on tailors.
Hugo Boss designed the SS dress uniform. That's why the Germans had the coolest uniforms. Now, they couldn't get them dirty. There was no place to get them cleaned if they did. And their level of organizations never extended much more beyond the uniform, which was not their own creation. They wore them, but they didn't create them. So although they had the coolest uniforms, there were some other positions they took that they could not fall back from later on in life and renegotiated. You remember we said all that stuff about the stuff in the Ubermensch and the Superman?
Right,
No,
right.
We didn't mean that. That was a Fox News thing. We were just saying that to get your attention. But we never believed it for a minute.
What's it going to take, excuse me, what's it going to take for this nation to smarten up? What is the path that we could take? Because there has to be, if we keep going down this path, we're not going to have a nation. 20, 30 years from now, we'll be gone. But there's not going to be the United States as we know it, because either the Chinese or the Russians or somebody's going to come in and take the place over.
But it's not going to be the Russians. They can't get down the street. They barely got in their trucks and drove out of Afghanistan, let alone the Crimea.
Right, but again, I will advance to you that the Ukrainians, I mean, talk to your average Ukrainian. First of all, the average Ukrainian speaks English.
It's true.
How many? If you drop down in Market Square in Pittsburgh and started talking to people in another language, Ukrainian, how many people do you think would be speaking another language? Never mind Ukrainian, French or Italian or
Does the Pittsburgh dialect count as another language? Maybe
no,
just in football season.
no. That's yeah, no, that's not another language. It is if you live there, but I mean, so I would hazard a guess that the average Ukrainian that's our age, younger, baby boomer Ukrainian, is way more educated.
And probably speaks 3 languages.
And
I
probably,
can,
well, yeah. I mean, you're thinking you probably have to. You probably got to speak Russian.
right.
You got to speak English, and
And
it's
you do
probably
speak,
you
there's
know,
Ukrainian.
another European language in there. French or some other language, because in those schools they require kids to take 2 languages and to actually be proficient at them.
And they teach them when they're young, so they learn.
Right. Um. So I will say to you that the Ukrainians, I don't know. I just think that they're smarter than us. I think we've been dumbed down so much by media and by, uh, you know, not taking education seriously. Listen, I'm guilty of it myself. I should be a lot smarter than I am. But, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you think the world is your oyster. You
But
don't need
Vinny,
education.
there's been a side to the American story that's kind of amusing, but not very reassuring, and that is we always bought the snake oil, we always bought the swampland, we always bought the pig and the poke, we always bought the Brooklyn Bridge, we always bought the story, we always fell in love with the professor. Professor what? I'll get back to you later. Professor of George Santos. Professor George Santos, hello, how can I help you? What are you professor of? What do you need? I can be professor of anything at my rate. With America never buys the washing machine that's bolted down because we buy something else instead. America's always been sold on something, and I'd like to know why we have traditionally been so vulnerable to the fox in the hen house.
Well,
We don't see
how
it
do we
coming.
fix it? How do we fix it? Is there anything we can do? Those of us who don't have a lot of time left on this planet, to get younger people to see that this is the destruction of our nation. That this is something that, although it feels, it's like drugs. It feels good when you're a kid, but if you're 35 or 40 and you're still doing them, there's something really wrong.
Kristen was telling me about a show that was on last night that had to do with fentanyl and how the gangs in Mexico, the same ones who murdered those innocent people yesterday, are
Yeah,
making it so cheaply that when they bring it across the border, people say, "What do you got here?" And they say, "Well, what do you need?" Well, we need methamphetamine, and we need dance drugs for the raves, and we need. So they've got fentanyl, and they say, "Yeah, that's it. That's what we got." So you think you're taking methamphetamine, you think you're taking a party drug, and you're taking the greatest, most effective opiate that there is right now, and you're dying in your Volkswagen. You never get to the dance.
and it's built on Chinese chemicals. The
Yeah.
chemicals are made available cheaply from China.
Why don't biker gangs make this instead of meth if it's so easy to make?
I don't know, Michael. I don't know why we allow you know I know it sounds like a crazy idea. You're probably going to laugh at me for saying this, but maybe Trump wasn't all that wrong when he said you start bombing meth labs and drug cartel places in Mexico. I mean, we thought it was a crazy idea at the time, and coming from his mouth, it sounds crazy.
Coming from your mouth, it sounds crazy. Exactly when are you going to start bombing Mexico for the good of
Well,
America?
you got to do. And I'm not advocating that you bomb Mexico, but you do have to come up with some system between Mexico and America that says that we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. If you allow these drug cartels and these people to do this, we're going to stop trading with you. We're not going to allow your products into this
Well,
country.
then you got to talk directly to the cartels. There's no point in talking to the politicians or the police or the army or the president of Mexico. They're all in the pocket. The GMP of Mexico is 65% cartel based. There
Yeah.
is no other economy that makes that country work that works as well as the cartels. And their business plan is kill somebody that works for you every other day. So that's how
So it
interesting
keeps everybody in line. And, and
it keeps fresh blood coming in.
as we've seen with organized crime in New York, that doesn't work. You eventually run out of people, or people start to rat you out because they don't want to be the next one to be found in a barrel somewhere in the swamps of Jersey.
And if you looked at the don't travel zone in Mexico, there's more places you can't go than you can. You're thinking of going to Cancun, you're thinking of going to Mexico City, you're thinking of going to Baja, Mexico, you're thinking of going to Puerto Vallarta. No travel zones, no travel.
It's interesting because I was looking at that map yesterday, and it struck me that besides Matamoros, which is on the complete northeastern end of Mexico, buttressed up
They're
against
taking care of the Texas money.
Texas, um, all of the other places were much more in the interior. And Baja California was not a no travel zone. It was, a matter of fact, it was. I'm watching. For some reason, a lot of these YouTube nomad traveler people go down to Baja in the winter, and I guess the word is there that you don't mess with Americans because it's our lifeblood. The tourist money of people coming down is more important than the drug money.
It's hard. It's hard for the cartels to reason that, though. Then you're relying on the good sense of a cartel gunman to do the right thing.
Right. I know. I'm not saying there's no incidences, but those places are not on that no travel. And if you look at, I mean, because I'm looking, there's this one woman I follow, lone woman traveler, and I'm looking at her going down to Baja, and I'm saying, babe, you're nuts. You're crazy. You're a woman traveling alone, and you're going down to Baja. I mean, you got to be nuts. But, she's down and back. Another family that I follow, down and back, the RV Miles people, and no problems. Now, I don't know why that is. It would be interesting to find out. But why is what's happening there not happening in the rest of Mexico?
Well, I guess because of the individual wishes of the cartels that are running that part of the country. There is no part of Mexico that is not cartel controlled. Now, whether it's active and dangerous to Americans is another matter. That would just be bad for business. But they consistently do things that are bad for business. Like, for instance, hanging their working people from the freeway overpasses. That's something that they like to do when things go wrong and the deal gets a little hinky.
Never a good
You can
deal.
always help. You can always hang Fredo from the overclass going into Tijuana.
Yeah, or just, you know, pulling people out of a minivan because they think they look like somebody that they think they're looking for.
Well, they had like a 16-year-old case in the joint who said, "I think that's them. How do you know? They look like they're Americans. Did we get the wrong guys? Even if we got the wrong guys, what difference does it make? We
Yeah,
face
well,
no judgment of the law."
yeah, that's it. I mean, when you operate with impunity, when you operate with an ability not to be detected, or even if you are detected, not to be punished.
Little
Yeah,
details like killing the wrong tourist does not matter in the business plan that the cartels have devised.
you walk down the street and you say, well, nothing's going to happen to me, so I can pretty much do what I want. If I take this person out, or take that shopkeeper out, or kill these 4 tourists, doesn't matter.
But as for bombing the fentanyl plant, I think that's a great idea. But I think it should be black operations. I think the plant should just suddenly blow up somehow. Don't ask me how, and I don't know who did that. Who would do such a thing? But it did blow up, and a couple of the guys, unfortunately, were singed in the experience. I'm sure they'll change their ways now. But
Well,
to be successful, I think it would have to be an undercover op.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think that you nuclear bomb some, or send bombers into Mexico. But the concept of how do we stop this? Um, but again, Michael, I've always said this. The only way to truly stop it is to not have people demand it.
Cheap fentanyl. Good luck on that one.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we have a nation that is, our younger people, many of them, not all of them, obviously, but so many of them have turned into drug addicts. And what do
Well,
about that?
you might ask where the prevalence of all those drugs and fentanyl and OxyContin came from. Well, the thing you always ask when someone is addicted to a drug is, where do they get these drugs? How do they keep getting them? How do they get more when they need them? Oh, wait, there's a whole little pipeline here. I see. This all works
Right.
out beautifully. This is not about drug addiction or someone messing up their life. It's about sales and profit.
Well, what causes people? I mean, they obviously have to have a market for it. They obviously have to have people that want the stuff. Is that where you start? I mean, can it even be fixed? Can you even, is it all so far gone that we can't fix it anymore? In which case, we're in deeper trouble than you would ever believe.
Well, it's not a new problem
Right.
with opiates. They're insidious. There's no way to avoid the downside of it. There's a very attractive upside. There's a comfort, and there's also an alleviation of something that Americans don't deal with very well, and that's pain.
Right.
Post-surgical pain, chronic pain, pain from anything that might have gone wrong in the development of the body, in the injury to the body, in the dependence of the brain on some form of opiate. The the market, it does not exist anywhere in the world like it exists in America for working with your pain problems with the pills that are available. As weird and as dangerous as they are, that people would take OxyContin at a party, but people also take OxyContin every morning when they get up and their back's killing them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's for better or for worse, for many people, it is what alleviates pain.
And apparently, this fentanyl is so powerful that even a reduced dose can be a death call.
Well, I know the stuff that, I mean, I think it's the same stuff that they use to induce comas. Not quite as powerful as, but you have to think when somebody has something that powerful, that they're not using it to get people high, they're using it to kill people.
Both, yeah. I say you're going to get high on this, and maybe you will for a moment, but the real problem here is it's going to kill you. But that's why we ask for payment ahead of time.
Yeah,
There is no payment plan on this drug.
yeah, no, you got to pay for it because it's very hard to collect off a dead person. And
And
I saw the same show that your lovely wife saw last night, the CNN town hall, and it's amazing. It's so prevalent. I mean, I don't know how the border states down there, how, you know, how they can deal with it. I mean, you could put up a wall, you could put up a fence, you could put up whatever you want to put up,
You can put
But
up a
if the
holler.
people on the other side want it, they're going to figure out a way to get it. You got to stop people from wanting it.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And I don't know how you do that.
That's the anti-heroin pill, which we don't have.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that you have to figure out. How do you get people? Do you give it to them? Do you just make it in a safe place and just say, oh, my age-old stupid idea of saying, okay, if you want to be a drug addict, you go here, and you can be a drug addict. We'll give you 3 meals a day and all the drugs you need to get high, but you can't come out.
And
You got to stay.
you have to take our drug, which we sell to you, called methadone. It's the only drug that we make.
Right. You
Apparently,
got
apparently, apparently, it reduces the effects.
and until you either die or decide you want to get straight, this is where you have to stay. But as long as you stay, you'll have a place to sleep, you'll have 3 meals, and you'll have a supply of whatever drug gets you high. And that's it.
And then where does the clinic get the drug that they give them for as long as they want? That's what I want to know. Are they buying it
Well,
from the cartel, or are they getting it from some
no,
reliable source?
obviously they manufacture it. It's done under government supervision, um, just as these places are run under government supervision. But I think it would be cheaper for the government, for the police, for society as a whole to be able to say to these people, we have to segregate you from our society.
Why are these people becoming criminals? Well, if you were in their skin and didn't have a high today, you'd steal Grandpa's car too
It's a
and
very
sell it on the
powerful
market for
thing.
$30.
It's a very powerful thing. Um, I don't know how many people in our audience have ever had to go through that, but it's not fun. It's the you know the it's funny because at some point it ceases to be a high.
It's just a maintenance.
It's just you're just trying to get along. They
You're
shouldn't
feeding the
call it a
monkey.
high. They should call it a get along because that's all it becomes.
It is a monkey on your back, but it's a pretty good sized monkey. And some days it's really big. You got to carry it around everywhere you go. The
Yeah,
monkey, completely capable of walking and climbing in trees. All he does is hang on your back and go for a ride.
yeah. You don't, but again, it comes down to, and I think it goes back to education and our willingness to deal with problems, our willingness to, I don't know, to try to be more intelligent about these things. I mean, if people, I don't know, people often say, well, the people that do drugs are uneducated, or people that do drugs are they're stupid people, or they don't know what they're doing, or they're just looking for an escape. Well,
Well,
yeah,
we
they're looking
want
for
to.
for
It makes us feel better, Vinny, if we can say this is a problem of the Rust Belt. These are poor, underdeveloped cities in America that never had an advancement, don't have an educated population. This is what they were heading for their whole life. It was just a matter of time. But that doesn't make any sense. They had to have a source for this drug, and they had to have a need for it.
I don't know if you watched the HQ trivia thing that was run on CNN. I think it was Sunday night. There used to be this game that you would play on your phone, HQ Trivia. I played it.
Right. Sound like
Millions played it. And the thing collapsed, went right down the tubes. One of the co founders of it, who was bright enough, smart enough to create this thing, died in his apartment of a heroin overdose. And here's a guy that had a $1 million business that they made out of nothing, out of a phone app. And yet, here was, the guy was addicted to drugs. So it's not just the Rust Belt people, it's your average Silicon Valley, person who has to work 18 or 20 hours a day who is coming apart at the seams and says, this takes me away from it for a couple of hours.
I got it under control.
I can do it. I'm functioning. Can't tell you how many guys my father had working for him that did heroin, that functioned, came to work and worked on cars and, pumped gas and all of that kind of stuff. But yet at lunchtime, they were gone for an hour and they'd come back and they'd have that glazed look in their eye.
Could
my
they
old
do
man
this?
would have to get rid of them.
Could they do the Texaco song? Could they do the Speedy Texaco with the window washing and all that?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't know. I never asked. I don't think my father made it a requirement to sing the Texaco song.
It's good to
except
have.
for me.
It's good to have a song before you clean the windows. It impresses the folks coming in.
But you could definitely tell that they were different when they came back from lunch than they were when they went. Even a stupid little kid like me could see that. And
I'm waiting for my man.
yeah, it was. It wasn't that they were doing it so much to get high as they were doing it to maintain their ability to function in life.
Yeah.
Just to function.
That's why getting by, just passing and convincing other people, or not alerting other people that you have a problem, is the trickster at work.
Yeah. You generally have to work for somebody who's dumb enough not to know.
That helps.
Or when you work for an older guy like my dad, my dad had no idea what was going on. Not until much later when I kind of explained it to him. That, hey, this guy, Dad, I got to tell you something. I mean, this guy's leaving at noon and he's coming back at 1. And he's looking at that brake job and he's leaning like this, man. Something ain't right.
It's the brakes that ain't right. No, it might be something else.
Yeah, it might be something else, Dad. Tell you. And you would, and then you'd have to let somebody go. You didn't have drug testing in those days. If you thought somebody was getting high at work, you got rid of them.
If you could put in a water pump without ruining the radiator, you were good.
You're okay. There's a shortage of mechanics. We need good people. He may be a junkie, but he shows up at 8 o'clock every morning.
My kind of junkie shows right up
until he doesn't anymore.
And then what happened to Biff Jiggerman?
He's out stealing tires.
He's 6 under.
Yeah, I mean, you would see, a lot of the junkies used to hang out down Astoria Park, and many times I saw guys that used to work for my father, and I'd be down Astoria Park, and they'd be hanging out with the leaners, with the guys that would hang out on the nod,
It's nap time.
On the nod. And they could sit there and and eventually, they'd overdose. Eventually, you'd hear, oh, that guy, or Lefty, or this guy, or Alipio, or this guy, or that guy. Where was he?
The funny thing, one thing I noticed about the story of fentanyl is the drug suppliers don't care if you die. The business plan allows for that. They don't care if they're providing a drug that you think you're taking one and you're taking another. They don't care if they've reinvented the most powerful of all the opiates and put it on the market. They don't care about any of the end user problems that are going on with the drug that they're manufacturing. They buy the chemicals, they make it, and they sell it as anything. What I really am looking for is a painkiller that doesn't keep me awake at night. Oh, this is it. I'm looking for something because I'm allergic to cats. Oh, I got the perfect thing. Fentanyl.
Well, doesn't that go toward our we saw it through COVID. We don't regard life in the same way that we used to. Life was precious to us when we were growing up. We cared about people. We cared that people were going to Vietnam and coming back dead. We cared that people were not wearing their seatbelts so they would get killed in car accidents or all the different things that would happen. We cared about that. I mean, this country lost 1 million people of COVID, and you had people put on their masks.
I just want to say that's when we started not caring. We don't care about those people because somehow they were duped into their own death. I can't explain it to you right now, but it all goes back to Anthony Fauci and the Italian vote changers.
I don't, it just, I just don't think we value life as much as we used to. When heroin was going around when I was a kid, I remember the people used to shoot up together. They'd watch out for each other. They'd shoot up in groups so that if one of them started to overdose or something happened, somebody was there to call the cops and run. The dealers didn't want to lose people because they didn't want to lose a customer.
There goes my base. You'll
Yeah.
forgive the expression.
Now, people don't care the same anymore. Life is cheap to people now.
And you can make any demand on a junkie. Now, when you get home, you have to cook this. Cook it. What are you talking about? Yeah, it's called freebase. You have to separate the parts. And I can't do it, so you got to do it. Everybody has to cook their own. Well, I don't want to cook a drug. Well, you'll see. You'll be accommodating after you get the hang of it. Remember, just boil it. When they separate, you got a deal.
Boy, we've really been a bummer today, man. This has been a kind of a bummer show, hasn't it?
But it's a bummer, please. The brown acid, ladies and gentlemen, the brown acid is a bummer. It's a bummer, please. Don't take the brown acid.
Well, you see, that's just the thing. Even at Woodstock, somebody got up there and says, "Don't take this drug, take that drug if you want to, or else you're going to be freaking out." They cared enough to go up on stage and say, "Don't do this. It could hurt you."
Remember the Kaysan drug report from the free clinic? The Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic. They used to be on Friday. They would give you the drug report. What was in town, what was testing, how it was testing, what to watch out for.
Probably saved some people's lives, didn't it?
No doubt. Because it wasn't just on the Acapulco Gold's in town. It'll be here for a short time only. It was every kind of drug that there was. Whatever was being brought into the free clinic for analysis. If you bought a street drug, you could have it tested before you took it.
Yeah, and not get arrested. Well, it was. They didn't have anything like that in New York.
No free clinic.
No, well, they had free clinics, but they didn't have. I don't remember that WNEW ever did a drug report or anything like that because I don't know. I don't
Metro
know why.
Media.
Yeah,
Metro
well,
Media.
Metro Media owned KSAN too, right?
Eventually.
So I don't know why. That's a great idea because
They discontinued it because it was a little seedy.
well, but you also know that people aren't gonna, I mean, people need some kind of information if they're doing these drugs, right? I mean, yeah, you don't endorse it, but if you can put out the alert that something out in the community is bad, that there's people selling some kind of synthetic drug that could kill you, you'd want to get that word out there, I would think.
Well, the word's out on fentanyl, but the problem is, from what I gather, is regardless of what you buy, you could have fentanyl in your package, and so consequently, you're taking it whether you intended to take it or not, and you're victims whether you wanted to be or not, and you're in jeopardy even when you thought you were going to have a party drug.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder when the first time is going to turn up that people in what do you call it? To go to Walgreens or something to get their drugs. It turns up in one of their things. Some clown figured he'd make himself a ton of money, so he substituted these for those.
There's a guy selling pills over the television right now, and he never tells you where they're from. He never tells you where the alternative market that produced these drugs happens to be, or who's in charge of it, or how much did it cost, or what their attention is to quality control and attention to detail. It's just, it gets it. What you want a drug? Fine, we can get it to you cheaper. Here's what it's going to cost. Where'd you get the drug though? Who makes it? Really, we'll talk about this later, okay? But right now,
Well,
I'm on the pitch. Let me finish my pitch.
there are, listen, there are people who will stick anything into their bodies. They don't care.
And if you think
There's
sending money
no
to a stranger in Canada is the way to solve that problem, you're going to have to think again. That's the same model as we're using right now by sending money to strangers in Mexico. And how's that turning out for you?
not well. I mean, I mean, these poor people went down there to get cosmetic surgery and got themselves killed or maimed.
That's the kind of tummy tuck that I think we have to rethink. This is what your tummy tuck looks like. You said that I was going to be slim and be able to fit into my high school jeans. Well, not exactly.
Well, and it's a huge business down there. I mean, many people go down there. Matter of fact, I was looking into it for dental implants because to get dental implants done here, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. You can get them done in Mexico, in certain parts of Mexico, for pennies on the dollar. So it's a big industry. Mexico, I think they do it in Ecuador. I think they do it in Venezuela. If I'm not mistaken. Costa Rica, bunch of those countries, and they're like American trained doctors and stuff. So you're getting the same standard of care in certain things. I mean, I wouldn't go down there for a kidney operation, maybe, but for teeth or something like that, it sounds plausible. Turkey is another place that
And Mr.
people go to.
Richichi, did you want new teeth or were you interested in our retread wear-agains?
I'll take the used ones if they kind of match.
Belonged to a nice little old lady from Schenectady.
And she's not using them anymore.
She's not using much of anything anymore. Not there's so much that I could say about her degree of abandonment, but she's really let herself go to the point where she does not respond even to electrical shocks.
she's just saying, hey, you don't think that happens?
Oh boy.
Yeah. When you're getting when it costs you, I mean, to go in and get a set of implants done in your mouth is $25,000 or $30,000.
These seem a little snug. Yeah, I tightened them an extra way because they belong to Grandma Fidget, and she's no longer using them.
Yeah, the woman
And
I
I
took
think
him
it's
out of last week complained about him too. So
and I think it should be okay. Get back to me if you got any problem. Well, they squeak when I eat. That'll go away. You'll get used to that.
Mikey, what kind of crazy world do we live in? You
The
know?
kind of crazy world where Kool-Aid is not the bad. Kool-Aid's the payoff. Wait a minute, they all drank Kool-Aid and they're dead. Yeah, but that's where they were going from day one. They just never realized it. There was no other place to go. You go with Donald Trump, you go to the end, and then you're done.
What's going to be Donald's Kool-Aid? Is there going to be a Trump Kool-Aid? Is there going to be
And in
an
tragedy,
act
as I've
or a
said,
thing?
this act of American politics and social chaos will end in tragedy, as I predicted before he was elected. And it could have something to do with a limousine and a palm tree.
A limousine and a palm tree? Is that the royal order of the Beverly Hilton, or?
It happens in LA more than you might imagine, where the limousine just seems to have gone out of control and at top speed without touching the brakes ran into a palm tree.
Wow.
Go figure.
The time-honored rock and roll way to go. The auto accident. I don't know what's going to happen with Trump. I mean, his last speech that we saw on Sunday at CPAC was about as unhinged as you can get. It was more retribution and revenge than anything else.
The good news is when he takes names and writes down, he loses the list. Puts it on his desk, gets lost immediately. There's nobody there. What happened to that list of people I was going to take care of?
I ripped it up and threw it in the toilet.
I made a good list, and what the hell happened to it? Now I'm going to have to make another one? Get my staff in here. Make a list. Who? Make a list of the people that were on my last list. I tore it up, so I lost. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Biff Jiggerman's right at the top.
I think the scariest thing in the world is he could actually get reelected.
No.
I don't know, Mikey. I like to think no. I like to think that,
Ask Sean Hannity what he really thinks. He'll tell you no.
yeah, I like to think no, but there's some kind of bizarre piece that tells me, yeah, that tells me that there's enough people out there.
Well, there are people out there, but I don't think they have quite enough. They don't have enough to elect 2 Republican senators from Georgia. That'll give you some idea of what we're dealing with in terms of the shift in population and the loyalty toward truth and power in elections.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. I don't know. I don't trust these people. They're scary as all get out to me. And I think that if they have an opportunity, they're going to try to steal an election, try to somehow. I just don't trust them. I don't trust the Ron Johnsons. I don't trust the Donald Trumps. I don't trust that enough people think that they're buffoons yet. I think more people, there's still too many people that think that they're for real.
Jim Jordan called Hugo Boss the other day and said, "It's not that we want uniforms. We just want something that we all wear that sort of identifies us as okay, uniforms. We'll go with the black dress uniform. Do you have any of those left? We do. They're a little dated. They smell like golf. Send them over. Let's see what they look like. Let's shake them out and see if they're suitable to our needs."
He has his uniform. He wears that ridiculous no jacket, shirts rolled up like he's working.
The drip dry look.
Yeah, I mean he
still gets his shirt at Sears and Roebuck's, and he has that special drip dry Jim Jordan look.
Why can't these guys buy anything that fits? What is it in the Republican playbook that says you can't wear a suit that fits?
Nope, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. And they only wear the suit to cover up the tie, which is one of the snap-ons. So there you go.
Oh, Mikey, I don't know. You know, we take on the world. We try to solve the problems of the world every day. And when we do this show, or every other day when we do this show, and the more we try to solve the problems of the world, the worse they seem to get.
There are some people who, when going the wrong way, would prefer to continue going the wrong way than to have someone else tell them that they're going the wrong way. They can't tolerate the judgment, the criticism, and the information that comes from another source. So they question all that and just say, that's bull, that's invented news. That's a story that the real right or the real left are telling. And I don't believe any of that. I believe that COVID was started in a Milwaukee dairy and that the cows are responsible for it. And the cows will tell you that because cows can talk, and not many people realize that.
You think it's cows, huh? You think it's Milwaukee?
Wisconsin Holstein cows. And they're behind a lot more than that. You don't know what they have planned next. They've got terrible things in store for us.
Wow.
And by the way, the New York Jets are going to give Aaron Rodgers a job because nobody else in the NFL is interested in bringing him in as a quarterback. That's the weird story. That's I thought the weird part was that the Jets were going to get a quarterback. Nope. The weird part is nobody else is interested in him.
Well, as you probably have seen, the Seahawks decided to make Geno Smith their quarterback of the future.
Which means you got one more year.
No, I think they signed him to a 3-year deal. I think it was a 3-year. I don't know, 30, 40.
Well, I wondered why they sort of shied away from that deal when the season was over, because they had nobody to take his place. He had proven himself to be a good replacement. And who did they have? Drew Lock was not ready to play ball.
Yeah, 3-year deal for $105 million, and it's considered to be a deal because he took less to stay with Seattle than he probably could have gotten from another team.
But who? When you think about it,
Tampa Bay was probably number one on the list. If Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, are they somebody who is there next in line, some ready to make the grade?
Well, the funny thing about the Aaron Rodgers deal is Green Bay's already said that they'll make a deal with somebody else. So they've put their eggs in the basket of their backup quarterback Love. And that means that Aaron Rodgers will be the subject of a trade. So who are you going to give up there, New York? You Jets must have a couple stars that you'd like to part with. They would love to play in the cold weather. I should say colder weather.
Yeah.
And have you taken a look at Ron DeSantis? Do you see the Jimmy Hoffa that I see in him? The spirit of Jimmy Hoffa has risen again right from his cheap shoes.
I don't know if I see Jimmy Hoffa in him. I see Hoffa knew how to dress.
No.
Ron DeSantis does not know how to dress.
Jimmy Hoffa wore Robert Hall 2 pair of pants, and he wore both pair.
At the same time?
Yes.
Did he have one leg out here and one leg out here, or was both
Yes.
they on over each other?
As a precaution, just as you said.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Ron DeSantis at all, and I think I think that for a party that is supposed to be built on less government and less government interference, he seems to want to he wants to run the schools, he wants to run Disneyland, he wants to run the entire state. And I look at Florida, I talk to people I know in Florida, they say the state and run all that well. Outside the perception is, oh, he did this, and this, but he screwed things up.
It never plays out the way he wanted. And not only that, guys like that want to take care of not a few things. Eventually, they want to take care of everything. That's the way of the Nazi. That's the way of the fascist. All things are taken care of. All control is in place. And it's the responsibility of the individual, not a citizen, but just the individual, to comply.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not a big Ron DeSantis fan. I think he's. But I definitely am going to get off on seeing him and Trump go at each other. I mean, that should be an interesting. That should be entertaining to say the least.
Because what are two liars going to say about each other? I mean, they can say anything they want. They can make up any particular lie that they like. They can make up a story so fantastic that only a child would believe it. So that would be their opportunity to make up greater and greater stories about each other.
I think they should give him a couple of cups of dice and a bar and let him sit in it and play it until one of them is out.
2 and out.
I just
double or nothing. Come on, we'll roll for the whole thing. No, you lost.
Both of them are scary, and the reason that they're scary is they have the potential to actually be elected. Trump more than DeSantis. I don't know how well DeSantis is going to play outside of Florida, outside the Southeast. He's certainly trying to, because he was out, I guess, in California yesterday.
Money.
On his book tour.
He didn't make any personal appearances. He made money stops.
That's for him. That's what he needs, right? I mean, that's what he needs to build up a war chest. Although I understand that he is the darling of the contributors, much more than Trump at the moment.
Well, Trump is damaged goods, even though he doesn't see it, and is not. Nor do the people who love him see it. But it's true enough.
Yeah. It was interesting yesterday. And again, I go back to that Meet the Press, the interview there with Ron Johnson. Chuck Todd, he let Johnson go on about Hunter Biden, and he said, well, how come you don't feel like this about Jared Kushner? And then he laid out a litany of all the things that Kushner had done while he was in office, all the profits that he made off deals he was negotiating and everything. And he said, how come you don't feel like that? He said, well, I would never ever go after somebody's son.
Oh, God.
What a maroon.
What a maroon. What about his cousin? What about his half-brother? No, let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, it really is. Well, anyway, yes. So anyway, going back to Geno Smith for a second, he's signed, sealed, and delivered. He'll be with the Seahawks. 32 years old, and 10 years in the league, and he gets the big contract he's always wanted. But yet, many people say for less than he could have gotten somewhere else.
Well, I think he realized that he had a pretty good situation there. I don't know if everyone, if all the fans and all the coaches and all the teammates agree with me on that, but he was a better deal than many of the backup quarterbacks that came into play this year that had to rescue their teams from terrible injuries. And the backup quarterback is more and more of a factor each season. The backup quarterback helps decide who actually goes to the Super Bowl.
Well, you got to have yeah, you got to have somebody. As Mike Tomlin always says, your next man up has to hold up the standard.
Which never happens, but it's true.
Well, I think it happens in some cases. I think in Geno's case, it did happen for a while. It didn't happen the whole season. It certainly, but he had a stretch that was, can he at 32 years old, will he be? He'll be 33, I think, when the season starts. Can he duplicate what he did last year? Can he get the Seahawks back to the playoffs? Can he not?
What about Lamar Jackson? Does he have a deal yet with Baltimore?
I don't think so. I haven't seen anything.
It's been the weirdest decision. They have to have him. They have to keep him. They can't compete without him. They can't. Their offense is structured on the fact that this kid can run as well as pass. He's a danger on every play, and they have not locked him up. They experienced buyer's remorse when he was injured. Is this really the guy we want to be our quarterback? Is this really the way we want to organize our offense to cater to his skills? Well, they couldn't win without him. Now that he's coming back, they can't quite make a deal to keep him. So that's not the reception a quarterback likes to hear. It's not the kind of fight that a quarterback enjoys in the offseason when he thinks that he's due a certain amount of money. And it's not the way to organize the team. How come you didn't sign him when you had the chance?
Stuff going on.
Yeah, that's right. And right now they're sending a message to the quarterback that they don't need him or love him anymore.
Well, those messages, once training camp gets going, all of a sudden, it seems like all gets forgiven in these deals. So it'll be interesting to see. Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, boy, that's going to be that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be a head turner.
When did they start?
Well, if it happens, who's he going to throw to?
Well, I thought they had some receivers there last year. I thought they had. It seemed like they got into a groove for a while. It seemed like their defense kind of let them down at some point, but it seemed like they had to start or something. Is Aaron Rodgers their Brett Favre? Does he go in there and, legitimatize that team like Brett Favre did? I don't know, what was that, 15 years ago?
He will give it an immediate legitimacy. He said he just needs an offensive line to protect him long enough to make those connections with the guys going across the middle and the outs to the outside and the deep bomb. Got to have time to set those up.
Yeah. Did you know today is International Women's Day, by the way?
And any international women you want to mention?
I can't think of any.
I'd like to mention Timmy. I'd like to mention Timmy Euro, woman of international fame and fortune.
She was hurt.
She was definitely hurt. What's the matter, baby? What's the matter, baby? Is it hurting you? Because it was hurting me in the last song.
I'm trying to think, Sade was an international woman.
She was. Who else?
Great singer. Enya.
ABBA.
Miriam Makeba.
Josephine Michelson, is that her name? Great singer from Europe. Oh, God, what a voice. You know who I heard the other day was the girl who was on Apple Records, Mary Hopkin.
Mary Hopkin. Yes, I'm a big
Goodbye,
fan.
goodbye,
Yeah,
goodbye.
I'm a
Really
big
a
fan
great
of Mary
song.
Hopkin. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
I used that song in when I used to put together that little feature every week, the fond farewell to the car I was driving that week. When the car was driving out of the driveway,
Goodbye,
you would
goodbye.
hear Mary Hopkins singing "Goodbye." Good. I originally used "Never Can Say Goodbye" with the Isaac Hayes version, but "Goodbye" had more of an up. The Isaac Hayes version was kind of sultry and sexy and slow, and I wanted
It's
something a little more
a little
bouncy.
more, a
And
little more
goodbye,
goodbye. We're happy, we're sad, but goodbye anyway.
yeah, please, da 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 da. It was a great. It must have been like a British riding tune at some point, or
It was one of those McCartney productions. It was really well done, extraordinarily intricate production.
yeah, yeah. Although I thought about it at one point, and I almost started to slip in "Go Now" by the Moody Blues, but I didn't think anybody would get it.
Well, I love that song.
Go Now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's all of the stuff that the Moody Blues has done. That is my favorite Moody Blues song.
In Search of the Lost Child. Did they ever find that kid?
I thought it was In Search for the Lost Chord.
Oh, no wonder they never found him. I found this kid. His name's Robbie. He says he's fine. He lives downstairs. He wants us to let him go, but we found him. No, chord.
No, it's a chord. You're looking for a
We're
chord,
looking
not
for
a
a
child. Let the
chord.
kid go.
Let the kid.
Leave the children alone. Hey, teacher, leave those kids alone.
Well, we got a truck full of them. They all tell the same story. We're not looking for them. Yeah.
Oh my God. In Search of the Lost Child. I'm going to save that for an album. If we ever do an album, maybe that'll be our In Search of the Lost Inner Child. How's that?
There you go.
That would be. Now you know we'd sell a ton of those in Marin.
In the hub, San Anselmo, California.
Right there by the pizza place that used to serve the Italian lemon ices.
By the way, another atmospheric river is on its way to California, and the people who are still snowed in Big Bear and the San Bernardino Mountains from the last snow trouble just are only sending out one word of advice, and that is help. Get this the hell out of here
Those
before this
poor
next one gets
people.
here. Well, there's going to be more. In fact, now the danger is going to be flood. It's going to be warm rain on top of a snowpack. So here comes the big melt.
Well, and they're telling them, I saw on the news yesterday, that they're telling them, well, stay in your house. Well, when we're out of food and we're out of firewood, I mean, when does the National Guard start dropping like food packs into these people or something?
You can't get to the Piggly Wiggly because the roof caved in because of the snow was on the too
Yeah,
much
I mean,
snow.
the stores are, people can't get to the stores to open them. The food banks are out in the parking lot, serving up food, but nobody can get to the stores.
If you want to get to the store, you have to walk from wherever you are to wherever the store is because the roads are impassable and you can't dig your car out.
Well, you have to, even to get out of your house. I mean, you're looking at snow that's above your front door. So if you
Yep.
open your front door, you're probably in danger of having all the snow collapse in on you.
And I know a lot of ignorant people say, "Oh, Californians, you don't know how to live through the winter." But this is snow country. It
No,
snows here every year. This
no,
is the
this
this is a once in a lifetime snow event that has got everybody snowed in.
this is way more. Now, the bright side is there'll be plenty of places to swim next spring when the snow melts. Lake Shasta will be at 185%, which always worries me because
You know
where does
what
that
that means?
85% go?
That means more housing developments can be built. We can use that water before it ever gets to America.
You know, I hate to say this, but you're 100% right, man. These people be looking to put up houses and take advantage of the water while we have it.
This is why the aliens won't land. They come by, they say, they have a water problem there. I know, but every time it rains, they think that it's cured and they build more houses. We can't deal with people like this.
We
We
don't want
tried to
no
ex-
part
we
of
tried
this.
to explain it to them, and they won't listen. We offered them the truth, and they're endangered by it. They much rather believe their lies. So my short version is, we're not interacting with these folks, and until they get smarter, we're not dealing with them.
Well,
And
Mikey,
the Federation's on my side.
it's how you read it. It's how you look at it. If you would have looked at to serve man in a very different way, you would have never gotten on the spaceship.
Right.
But instead, the Americans took it as, oh, it's a cookbook. It's a self help book. When the whole time it was a cookbook.
And maybe we can buy drugs from space instead of Mexico.
I don't know, man. I mean, this is a show where I actually said that I thought that Donald Trump had a seed of a good idea.
And that's what he said about Adolf Hitler. He had a lot of really good ideas.
Yeah, yeah. Except they just had this one little flaw in them all.
Well, the rollout was always the dangerous thing. There was just a lot of people's feelings were hurt when he started rolling out new plans.
Yeah, the station was good. The music was kind of tough.
But their consultant was good. Everybody wanted him after that. It's your last job. You took the station into the dumper. They all drank Kool-Aid. True. True. All of them did. I rest my case.
We started with Kool-Aid, Michael, and it looks like that's where we end today with Kool-Aid, which
Purple
Mr.
Kool-Aid for
Manischewitz isn't going to be happy about that.
purple Kool-Aid for everybody, and serve those guys in the back first.
What do you say we get together and do this again on
Freaky Friday.
Friday? Yes, today's Wednesday, so we have tomorrow's Thursday, a day of rest. Actually, it's a doctor day tomorrow, and then Friday morning at 10:10, we'll reconvene this thing for a Freaky Fractious Friday.
Now,
And
that's something that we agree on. All the days of the week have different names, but over at Fox News, the days of the week have any name you want to give them, and it can be any day you want. If you think it's Tuesday and you've been stuck on that all day long, but it's early Wednesday, you're going to feel fine at Fox News, because they will tell you, yeah, you're right. It is Tuesday. It
Yeah.
is Tuesday. And all the things that happen on Tuesday are going to happen for you today if you stay with us and buy our products.
Well, even if you
I thought
just
it was
buy a
Wednesday.
pillow, just buy a pillow.
A pillow.
Buy a pillow,
That's
Buy
not a
a
bad
pillow.
idea.
and we'll call it even. Poor Mike Lindell, man. That guy is good at this.
He was at the CPAC. He showed up, and they let him talk
Yeah.
and everything.
He's gonna get what's coming to him. That dude.
And we've got the proof. We have it now, and we can show it.
He could have just, meandered along, making really rocky, bumpy pillows the rest of his life.
But no.
But no, he could have gotten, kept getting $99.95 for $29.95 pillow, and sending them out to people in the mail. But no. He had to.
Not part of
He
the
had to
business
say,
plan.
I'm going to affect this country.
If the cartels in Mexico are making a fortune selling drugs that we don't want, why can't I do the same thing selling pillows you don't want? It's a pillow. What difference does it make? Buy this one.
And he was selling them. He was in all the big box stores. You went in Bed Bath and Beyond. There was a big display with Mike standing there holding his pillow, the cross sticking right out of his shirt.
Holy moly. That's in case you didn't know he was Christian or a convert.
He had to, here's a guy that was slinging speed on the streets 10 years ago. Now he's got pillows.
And he's not a natural salesman, not for speed, not for pillows. It's just something about his demeanor is off-putting.
Go look at his early commercials. He had I remember when I first see he had this woman that was on the commercials with him, and she was actually more off-putting than he was.
Phil Swift here for Family of Products.
I think it was Mrs. Swift, to be honest with you. It was really, I just remember that commercial for some reason, and how the woman who he had on the commercial was so freaking annoying that you would buy the pillow just so you didn't have to touch the remote control.
Was she the one-time governor of Alaska? That annoying?
In that league. In that league, pal. In that league.
So it'll be a Freaky Friday or a Fractious Friday. And the big story that I keep thinking is going to come, the impending doom of a breaking story that I keep feeling on my neck is still there. I just can't tell you what it's going to be about.
I'm sure that by Friday something bizarre will have happened, and we'll be able to elucidate on it.
Will it have to do with aliens? And I'm talking about flying aliens.
With wings?
They don't have wings on their Tic Tacs. They have their vehicles have superior navigational and maneuverability, but no wings whatsoever.
So they move by inertial truncation.
No obvious means of propulsion, which leads us to believe that they have developed a anti-gravity system of propulsion.
Inertial truncation. It's the rage.
You know where they used to make that?
Spolpakia.
Damn right. And they made a fine Spolpakian version of it, too. It didn't work. Now, in fairness, it's fair to say it never worked.
It rarely works.
But they made it, and they were so enthusiastic about it. And they gave me a break on the price because they knew it didn't work. And that's a little different than the fentanyl salesman. They know it works, and they just don't care that you thought you were buying cat food.
Oh, man. Don't take any pills that you don't get at a pharmacy. Do yourself a favor, please. Just don't take any pills that you don't get at a pharmacy.
What about a Spolpakian pharmacy?
Even a Spolpakian pharmacy, they have some of the tightest pill controls. When you get a Pepto-Bismol pink tab from a Spolpakian pharmacy, you know that the quality is there.
Well, don't Spolpakian chemists develop the baker's dozen? Don't they give you a 13th pill for free?
No, I think they give you baking soda with the other 12 pills. So that you have a clean smelling refrigerator.
Yeah, if you're having a myocardial infarction, that can be disappointing.
Quite so. All right, man. I will see you on Friday if the Lord's willing. The creek don't rise.
I'll be right here, creek or no creek.
All right, Mikey. Peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby.
What a wine. What an atmospheric river Manischewitz is.
What an atmospheric river. Hail Spolpakia, as we say as we leave the air. And thank you for listening. Please hit like and subscribe, and we'll join you on Friday morning if the Lord's willing. And the creek don't rise.
Spolpakia, the expressway to your heart, is their national song because they have one big road. So sing it as we leave today.
Two big roads.
Been trying to get to you
and then you get
for a long time.
But you constantly.
The reason it takes so long to get anywhere in Spolpakia is one damn road and a frontage road that has its own name. So.
Well, the frontage road, let me tell you something. The special we're going to do on the frontage road is going to be par excellence. You'll never have seen anything like it or never will again.
A slice of America that you hoped you would avoid, but no, it's here. The frontage road special coming soon.
Peace, baby. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.